All right, item 1 of 3. Step 1, read the context in question for item 1 with the professor via the item 1 video. That's this. You will use the link below to access, and really it's not a link, but the URL. You will use the URL is what I should have said. Let me change that to say URL below to access and watch a video of events of the event where the former police officer Derek Chauvin knelt on the neck of George Floyd. It is very important that we all watch the same one video, as we all need to be able to point to and make use of the exact same information in our responses and future assignments. If you have time, you may wish to read the article that is posted further below the video. The question I want you to think about as you follow the video, and it's not a very long video at all, is as follows. Do you think Derek Chauvin was overly assertive in the use of his knee to restrain George Floyd? Now, I do have a missing requirement in when you're responding to this that is not written down, so make sure you stay tuned. But what you'll want to do is in the downloaded version of the argument, I don't expect you to type all this up, but in the downloaded version of this argument, go ahead and copy this URL and post it into your web browser and watch the video. Email me immediately if this does not work for you, but please first try different browsers and different devices. But don't spend more than, let's say, 15 or 20 minutes trying to get the video to play. All right, step 2. Okay, so once you've got the context, so I'm not going to watch the video with you or read the article. You should do that. So I recommend, if you really want to follow me the best, if you really want to get the most out of this next part of the video, you should pause the video and do as instructed. I'm going to go ahead and continue, assuming that you have in fact done that. So step 2, create one coherent paragraph as a result of reading through the information below while the professor, with the professor. So read through the information below. This should say with the professor as she provides missing requirements, details, tips, and warnings in the item 1 video. Okay, so as you can see, I do have room here for notes. If you are going to think you might request help or assistance while working on this, or at any other point you want to discuss your results and understand why you made the grade you did and my video feedback is not enough or the rubric's not enough, I am going to ask for detailed notes where you've written down lots of stuff here, so just keep that in mind. Now, one thing before I move on, what I recommend now is that you work through step 2 with me, okay, and go through all of it so that you can make a decision about how you want to respond. And then as soon as we're done with that, you should go ahead and construct your argument, because everything will be fresh in your mind. I do not recommend going to the video for item 2 until you've completed item 1. All right, so let's go ahead. Are you ready to take a definite position on the matter? That is, with respect to this question about Derek Chauvin being overly assertive. Okay, if you are, then you will copy the following sentence depending on your position. Derek Chauvin was or was not. You have to choose one of those phrases, either was or was not. I've actually had students that say both that he was and was not. If you think that it's possible to argue that he was, but also argue that he was not, then you shouldn't choose this option. You have to choose one side of a debate when going with this kind of option right here. Overly assertive in the use of his need to restrain George Floyd. Yes, copy the sentence in italics as appropriate before writing anything else. Do not paraphrase it. Do not shorten it. The sentence is there to make sure that you have a really good sentence that helps you to focus on specifics while providing reasons in support of that sentence you copied, which brings us to this element right here, element B. Next, offer at least 3 additional sentences in direct support of the claim you just copied, right? Of the claim you just copied. Your sentences should give me reasons to believe what you say in your first sentence, again, what you copy. That is the italicized one. So what am I asking you to do here? I'm asking you to state a conclusion, right, in a complete sentence, and then give me what? Reasons in direct support of your conclusion. Okay. As you're doing that, you need to think about, are my reasons relevant to the conclusion. Are my reasons adequate? In fact, we'd say, do my reasons offer adequate, so think enough, support for the conclusion. Okay, so let's go over this. So I'm not going to repeat all of this part. Just know that what I say here is going to also apply to items 2 and 3. I'm just getting some of this basic stuff. So if you do take a definite position with respect to items 1, 2, or 3, and so you're doing this part right here, you're copying a sentence as appropriate for your conclusion, and then you're giving me at least 3 more sentences worth of reasoning, okay? Now, if you do this successfully, then you have an argument, and that is what the lectures in component 1B of week 2 focused on. These questions right here go beyond that a little bit, and this is also very important. After you've constructed your argument, you want to look at your reasons and you want to ask yourself the following questions. Are my reasons, the statements that come after my conclusion, are they relevant? Do they have a direct bearing? Does the content in my reasons help lead to, connect to my conclusion? And then also, do your reasons adequately support? Do they provide enough support? You should always make the implicit explicit. Even if you think something's implied in your reasoning from, in your thinking or your logic from your reasons to your conclusions, you always want to make the implicit explicit. Let me give you an example. Let's say I say, I love fruit, therefore you should get me fruit. What might be a missing premise? It might be, if I love fruit, you should get me some. Now, I've made the implicit explicit. I love fruit. If you love me, you should get me some fruit. Therefore, you should, and actually, I love fruit. If you love me, you should get me some fruit. Therefore, you should get me some fruit. So I've helped with respect to fleshing out the reasoning, but I realize I still don't have enough support. I'd have to add another reason, and that would be, the missing reason is you do love me. So now I've gone from an argument, or supposedly an argument, where I go from I love fruit as a reason for the conclusion, you should get me some fruit. That's really not a great argument. It's barely an argument. But if I add 2 missing premises, then I get a valid argument. I get an argument with relevant, direct support that adequately supports the conclusion. So now it's, I love fruit. If you love me, you should get me some fruit. You do love me, therefore, you should get me some fruit. So notice how I made the implicit. I had to add 2 additional reasons to connect my original reason to my conclusion. So here I'm trying to help you focus on the quality of your argument. So 1B was focused mostly on what are the parts of an argument, what are the necessary ingredients, reasons, trying to support a conclusion in the form of statements. And now I'm helping you to produce a quality argument by asking you to think about, are my reasons, is the content in my reasoning relevant to the conclusion? Does it have a direct bearing on my conclusion? And is my reasoning, is the reasoning that I give enough to support the conclusion advanced? All right, so if you definitely have a position, then go ahead and write this. Go ahead and work on your response. If you don't have a definite position, or you still are thinking about it, you're not sure if you should state a definite position, then you should continue to listen to this part of the video here. If you do go ahead right now and decide that you're going to attempt this and you get stuck and you keep seeing both sides, then you may want to stop going with an argument or trying to construct an argument for definite position and switch over to this kind of response here. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and go to this element right here. Don't forget that you have examples of arguments with a definite position from the component 1B of task 2. Remember, this is an example of what an argument looks like. Remember that this is an example of what an argument in paragraph form looks like here with the definite position, here as well for a definite position, and then page 4 you also had another example of an argument where the conclusion is first for a definite position. Don't forget that this is an incorrect example, right? And don't forget that this one has problems because some of the statements are not relevant to the conclusion. All right, so that said, we're going to now work with an alternative that itself contains options. So if you cannot take a definite stand, you will copy this sentence. It is not rational for me to take a definite position on whether Derek Chauvin was overly assertive in the use of his need to restrain George Floyd. All right, so now you still copy a sentence. I've already lectured on what it means to say it's not rational for you to do something. Give me just a second. I'm going to pause the video to take this call.